There are a lot of delusional people who live in fantasy land, and they choose to believe whatever reality they want. And folks living in fantasy land tend to not be financially or genetically successful. But there's another group of people who are the curators or the directors or the writers and the producers of Fantasyland. And they control this planet. They're the 1/10 of 1% that have 80% of the wealth. And when you've got that much power, you just don't want temporal power. You want spiritual power. And I didn't learn this from the bought-off paid churches. I learned it by studying real politics, and being involved for 25 years and getting up to the highest levels, which you actually find out at the bottom. That the planet is choosing good versus evil. And then you have to define good versus evil. I could call this video good versus evil. What are those definitions? That's a whole textbook. That's a whole life. That's a whole 8-year degree. That's the stars, if you know what that is. Man, the years to come, the quickening now, every day is like a year before. I can't imagine the future. You can feel it, you can see it. And those of us that try to tell the truth, try to research what the globalists are actually saying and doing in their own communications, because they operate like we're animals, don't even read it. They publish books, they communicate with each other about what they're planning. It's so nightmarish. And then those of us that try to expose it, we're fools to them. They say, you should have joined us. The public are animals. They don't care. They can't hear you. They're like Helen Keller. And I say, well, Helen Keller did learn how to communicate. Had a beautiful mind, but I just can't feed on my fellow humans like a parasite and then think that I'm an elitist because I do it. But I have to tell you, some of the general public are awake, but others are falling like a spiritual sickness. So the world is at a crossroads and is truly choosing good and evil. And out of billions of data points and millions that my mind can comprehend and thousands that I cover yearly and hundreds that are before us right now, I thought I'd just choose a few data points that are based in mathematics and science and culture and history in provable cause and effect. But I define good as something that generally helps you and builds an environment that's conducive and conducive to life systems that are good for every species on the planet and for humans to be rewarded for being honorable and strong and empowering free markets and open societies, because in every system that creates something infinitely better than command and control systems. Just the idea of freedom created more wealth than every other nation in the world had. And the U.S. was captured by globalists to exploit that power to take over and reverse the Renaissance. The great flower, the great engine, the great final expression of the Renaissance became the launch pad for the invasion and the globalist colonization of not just the third world, but the Western world, and the total takedown of any upwardly mobile, open, competition-based, free will-based system. That's good. Good is wanting to try to be good, not just saying everybody's scum and dumb. Let me figure out how to maximize my profits and screw them all over and just be this horrible person who then is alone with all these other evil, hateful people who are so unhappy. I mean, you spiritually get next to these globalists and they're so empty and so upset and their families are so wrecked. You're like, whoa, this is radioactive. If it was like you were happy screwing everybody over and we're actually had a real breakaway civilization, maybe I'd join you, but you're wrecking humanity so you can be in charge of it because you can't deal with free market, but then it's blowing back on you and you're even in worse shape, but you're just committed to this nihilistic exercise so you don't get that you are being fallen and destroyed. because you don't have the real discernment, and they are so afraid of InfoWars and so afraid of me because I'm not the dumbed down, servile person grasping for simple totem power, and I'm not the globalist still grasping for petty totem power but claiming they're these big engineers trying to save the world. I'm somebody who's like most people, just wanting to have a better future for my children. That means a better future for you. But the average person is so meek in a good way and not a troublemaker and just moves forward through life and has been misdirected by Hollywood and all these social engineers that they stand down. That's why Thomas Jefferson saw the virtue in the farmers, and the virtue, whether they be blue collar or wealthy gentry class, whether they be little seed croppers or whatever it was, that he saw in the land, in people doing real things, the vibrancy, the creativity, the beauty, the strength, and he saw the elite's corruption and entropy and things collapsing, and he said, if we're going to survive and build a real civilization, it is to the farmer, which just means to the common man, the carpenter, the common woman, the person taking care of the children, or selling beautiful clothes, or painting, or being a whatever. So that's good. Evil is humanity's fallen and failed, and once we take control of their wills and use them and organize them like machines in a cog, we will achieve through our great visions godhood. That is the Luciferian vision. But it creates the opposite. And then onto the scene shows China. 700 million people when Mao Zedong took power in 1949, and he killed a good 85 million of them. And they adopted globalism. David Rockefeller went there. The globalists took over. They were agrarian. They had no manufacturing to speak of. It wasn't the U.S. was evil. We defeated the Japanese, but the corporations came in behind it, and they put Mao in power. They kicked out the nationalists. They kicked out the capitalists. Can you imagine if China had been given even a semblance of real freedom? But they were sabotaged with communism so they could be a power slave and an engine. The smart, hardworking Chinese people to build one-sided deals with one-sided trade deals with the West to give them all the industrial power, but the people nothing. And the CFR and all of them wrote about this since the 60s, how they were going to set up China and make it the engine, and how they had the communists getting control of the culture first. They had to break a few eggs, kill 85 million people, but that they were going to build this system that could then industrially project to the world under globalist control something to bankrupt everybody else that stood against it and then dictate the terms of our surrender. And that's what I want to share with you today. Just out of all this 100, 200 articles, whatever I've got just in front of me that are all incredibly important. All of which I looked at, I read, I scanned over. Half these I probably read the whole article. Most of them I scanned over just the first few paragraphs. Just because I do this every day, multiple times. And when I saw this article out of Reuters, I saw an article about it last night, but I saw it at Reuters this morning. It was crushing to me. And it wasn't crushing in that, oh my God, it's some weird race consciousness level. The Chinese people are going to dominate the West, and the Chinese people are unstoppable. It was that they were shackled in a matrix with millions of Buddhists and Christians held in prison, supplying the world with genetically type-tested organs, and that it's the most evil regime the world's ever seen. Hitler's this bad, terrible. The Soviet Union and its crimes are like this. China's like this. I mean, they've had university professors get into democide, death by, it's like China's murder rates of people and just genetic engineering and cows growing humanoids 20 years ago and human milk and just, that's what we know of. God, it's just wild, wild west, soulless, communism meets Chinese starvation level competitiveness, because they've had starvation for 5,000 years. And Hun invasions, Mongol invasions, people, homeless dying, dead bodies on the street. The police just, if you argue, they cut your genitals off in front of everyone. They have 24 mobile execution vans in every major city, just flying organs out 24/7, because they cut your organs out as you go to the airplane, because Americans don't want to go to China to get the organs. I mean, look this up. I'm telling you one microcosm, one little tidbit of this. A year and 2 months ago, 14 months ago at Davos, the Chinese dictator, they call him a president, he's a dictator. They have elections in the Politburo, but now they're getting rid of those. But it's like the inner party has their dictator, now he's a dictator over them. He went to Davos and he said, according to the big news, he said, I will defeat Trump and nationalism. And he stood on the podium with Juncker, who, look it up, I'm not just saying this, is the heir to the most powerful royal family of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. He's related to Queen Elizabeth, all of them. They're German, originally Transylvanian, because they stopped the Muslims, over 1,000 years, and they had all the wealth everybody had to pay for the spice trade coming through, and everything came through Hungary and all that. And so it was the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and Transylvania's right there in the Transylvanian mountains. And the point is, Jesus, it's so much knowledge. And they hate me because they all know this. They're all into this. And I read all the books. I read what they said. I know. I read Carol Quigley's book. I read the declassified CIA manual, 1,100 pages. It's all there. Just please listen to me. Please look at it, okay? Because they've already introduced binary weapons into the food and water. They've sided with the Chinese. Trump's like some weird rearguard negotiation with the Chinese and the EU and the globalists. More and more, I think, just for some Western elites to not be destroyed. I want to believe Trump's real, but I don't even know if he understands all this, because he would just declare it and get it out there. It's the only way to stop him. Because they've got 1,300,000,000, almost 400 million people under control. They tell you where you go, where you live, what you do. The farmers are slaves. They have Foxconn slave laboratories. I mean, it is just, my God, 20 years ago they admitted they had huge farms with cows growing human organs inside their uteruses. And the media, and then you think it hurts me when Colbert and all the comedy shows attack me and make jokes about this when they know what's going on? No, it doesn't hurt me. It's scary that they got so many people to go along who think it's funny. You think we're safe when the Chinese are being sucked dry by a giant satanic spider? That's the metaphor. They'll go, Joe's playing with giant satanic spider. Wrong. No, I'm saying you think you're safe when our government decided to put Mao Zedong in power. He killed 80 plus million of his own people. That's when he was in power. The numbers aren't known now. They have a dictatorship that owns the majority of our debt. See, I'm not like the media. I don't give you the big headline up front and wow you. I have to give you some background. Reuters. And I didn't just read this. I already knew all about this, but I can't believe they did this bold. Like a line of whores in a red light district. Twitter, Facebook, Google, its subsidiary YouTube, Microsoft, Apple. The old days, where whores lined up on the side of the street like in Amsterdam, shook their ass in the window, showed you what they had, told you, baby, I'll take care of you. Or walking into, some South Texas whorehouse where the girls are all at the bar. I have watched all these telecom companies in the news, because they're still decent reporters that tell the truth, shake their ass in front of communist China, the most scientific, dehumanizing. Their biggest export to South Korea is ground up baby fat for women to eat as pills and have injected in their face and lips. Look it up. When I talk about it, Glenn Beck would attack me and stuff. I didn't know what was happening, and now I get there, all on the Chinese payroll. And here's the new news. They admit it. So I'm going to tell everybody something. Just like if you knew your neighbor was kidnapping little kids and sacrificing them every Halloween, and because your neighbor was in business with you and you made $1 million with your neighbor a year, even though you didn't torture those kids to death every Halloween they grabbed, that's what it is. It's covered for that. It's been documented. would then be an accomplice on your soul, not in front of the country or the media, but before God, and there is a God. And there's also the universal rule of what comes around goes around. Well, China's doing all this, and I noticed when we fully began to capitulate 4 years ago to China and the communists, because they know how to manage people and enslave. Hollywood was being taken over. I talked to Hollywood folks, he told me about it before it was even in the news. They were shutting down free speech. And suddenly you couldn't criticize China in any way, communism, what they were doing to people. No more articles about suicide vans, no more articles about suicide nets, even in Bloomberg and stuff. Because that was still back during a negotiation where our establishment had factories and was making billions per family. Then the negotiation ended about 4 or 5 years ago, and no more news. And then, just because of Trump, people had to hedge their bets. So I saw a Washington Post article a month ago. Oh, a lot of big Texas universities were run by Chinese intelligence. Wasn't a big story. It was just they're running it. They're running the reactors. They're running DARPA programs. And it was like even UT had mentioned the Chinese espionage operation. But said it's okay. You know, Trump just says stop. And then I saw a couple months ago, China said, "Oh, Trump, you were at 40% corporate tax. We were at 15. You lowered yours to 15 to be fair. We went to 0, but there's one catch. Here's the big enchilada. You have to become state-run and put the Chinese government in charge of everything you're doing, and you have to move here, not just your operations. You have to make your world headquarters China, because we're communists. We're for the people. Trump's evil. 15% tax. We're 0." And Apple announced last night. Apple announced that they are going to put their main headquarters there, and their main cloud, and their main Apple ID, which is an internet ID, which China says they want as a global social score, and they're going to have all these digital online currencies now for Chinese goods, and this is the new global currency, you're hearing it here first, is a Chinese communist-backed global currency that means through the social networks, they'll let you communicate and have access to commerce and digital systems and then Chinese goods. Zero % tax. And Apple already had the Foxconn laboratories, the suicide nets, the forced drugging, 18-hour workdays. They were already doing it, and now it's a full collapse into China. Apple said, "Oh, we'll build one factory in America, we got hundreds in China." And it's a full collapse into China. And it is them being given full control of the web and the keys to the kingdom, and putting the Chinese government in charge of not just domestic servers, but if you read what they're saying, their main system, because they see the decadence of freedom, the decadence of everything we've had, and the fact that globalists use that decadence to get people to hate America, hate capitalism, and they're just going, "Don't worry, we're going to get rid of it for all you millennials." And they are setting up the complete fall of this country and the complete sellout. And Trump's kind of just like the ghost of America, going, no, jobs, family, good wages. And it's like, we don't want that. It's like, I'm not saying Trump's Christ, but it's an echo, where they're like, Christ has done nothing, he wants the people, and they go, we don't want Christ. They tell Pontius Pilate, we want Barabbas, a murderer or a rapist. And he says, I wash my hands. You want Barabbas. And that's really how I feel, because Trump's like the joke echo of common sense and sanity. And if people don't want it, I'll never join the globalists so that I can try to get life extension technologies and work with this big leverage takeover and built on the backs of Chinese slaves and all the rest of it. But I really look at the real villains here. It's the people manipulating the communist Chinese and the globalists and all the things they set up. But the real villains are leftists that'll watch this. And they've been so programmed to just hate free market and hate America and hate prosperity that they're paving their own way for full destruction. And it's not rhetoric. It's not talk. It's here. And we've been positioned for a fall. Hillary was supposed to come in and do everything. And I think members of our own establishment realized it was moving too fast, the global plan. So they put Trump in to do a better negotiation, and they hide it in plain view, to do a better negotiation for their globalist placement in the new model. Flood Europe with Islamists, break it down, implode it, let communists take it over for social engineering. Then let China dictate the terms of the full collapse with globalists manipulating it, using U.S. military as a final checkmate to hopefully keep them in line. But the Chinese cheated and double-dealed this whole plan that's admitted. And so high-up vampires in the system decided in a war to only use Trump as an idea of what America could be as the leverage to stop them. But see, in God's plan, that was the choice. And I don't think Trump even grasped the full nature, because I know he was recruited by. And now you see it. And now all that matters is getting your soul right and not letting him have that. Because I can tell you, we could beat the globalists, we could even stop the Chinese communist takeover for a while, but our kids are all programmed by the phones, they're all in basically near sleep states, that's admitted, that's mainline literature. We are, and so many of our thinking people get enough of this to know, hey, if I stick my head up, I get censored in the online social network, which is the Chinese model. If Chinese criticize anything, if they're negative in any way about how food tastes at a restaurant, they lose their credit, and finally they're banned and starved to death. And then I say, okay, I read science fiction written 110 years ago by Jules Verne about atomic weapons. And later I learned that they actually had equations about it before Max Planck even wrote about it. It was just time to roll it out in 1900. And I think, did they know all this? Because that's amazing enough. But to then see how they're chronicling all this and preparing it, and that 2,000 years ago on the Isle of Patmos, where's that, the Mediterranean? John the Revelator, I went and reread Revelations, and I read Daniel and other areas, and it's like God loved us so much we were given warnings. Not the fake churches, not all the Pharisees and the priest classes put in front of us, keep us from it, but it talks about world government, and the beast can be seen worldwide in all the nations, and there's all these big continents and nations and all these seas and 7 continents, and no one knew that then, and the world's round in Revelation and all this flat crap, and you've got to have this digital mark in your forehead and your hand to buy and sell, and you don't, you starve to death. And then the communist Chinese have been chosen by the globalists as a beta test with their slave population to roll this out against everybody else. And just like we said 5 years ago, this communist Chinese global social network thing is to be the model. Now they admit that. And then now they're saying it everywhere, and they're telling everybody, shut up. You know, first Facebook says, say transsexual, not train. Don't say, you know, don't even say Nazi or whatever. And then next it's don't say family, don't say father. Now Purdue and Harvard say don't say man in papers, or you'll be demoted, you'll be given an F. And then, well, okay, I won't say man, I won't say this, I won't say that. And pretty soon they've got you capitulating. And now all you YouTubers, everybody else, they're like, think you're part of the club and you get the memo talking points. I had YouTube try to recruit me with that. I had Facebook try to recruit me. They were off-record meetings, so I won't talk about it. We recorded some. It's all social engineering. It's all Pavlovian. And you've got people that are inside the tech things that know they're doing it, like Sean Parker. Did Sean Parker come out last year and say it's designed to dehumanize you and cut you off from your family and make you alone because he actually cared? I don't know. But a bunch of others came out and they said, this is really bad, this is really evil. And Elon Musk came out about 6 months ago, years after I told you, and said they worship AI, they think humanity's going to fall, they want to exterminate everybody. Bill Joy said it too. I mean, they're really saying that. And then what is Elon Musk out here telling you this for? Do they need opposition? To lead the opposition to say, oh, see, somebody warned you? Because they know I'm warning you? I don't want to be the leader of the opposition. I really genuinely am a schmuck. Just like one of the heads of the biggest banks in the U.S., he's no longer the head of one of them. He was the head of the fourth largest bank in the U.S. when I was on the plane like 8, 9 years ago. And he said, Alex, people don't evolve or adapt to fight tyranny. They evolve to submit to it because we do it slowly. And I looked at him in his perfect suit, his perfect overcoat when he got out. Just all of it was like a guy trying to show how powerful he was by being part of this evil system. And then what does all that do at the end of the day? So, you know, there's free will in this universe, and it's our spirit and our soul that really matters. And so it's my responsibility, because I'm not a Satanist and because I don't get off on tripping children. It's kind of global, like, let me trip this 2-year-old walking by. Because I don't have innate hate for humanity. They hate me. And you have been warned. I mean, it's so, people overuse the term epic. But it's so epic that Apple openly says, well, it's how we get into China. We're going to base there and let the government run our servers. It's all here in Reuters, and we're going to tie it into the world. It's just the way it is. It's just, okay, we denied globalism. We couldn't. You woke up to it, so we're just going to admit it and go full scale ahead. We're going to accelerate it now like you're not even noticing. Anybody that criticizes it, you're banned off the internet, which means banned from commerce, banned from life, banned from communication. Your kids all addicted to social networks, wanting to be part of it. I mean, this is abomination, desolation. This is the Antichrist system. Even if John the Revelator hallucinating this, it doesn't matter. Maybe it was science fiction. They took it, and they've taken it, and they're just doing. And they're just looking at it and accepting it and saying, we're going with this plan. And by the way, 99+% of you are all going to die. You're all profane animals. We're going to merge because our God said we kill all of you. We merge and live forever because we're gods. That's Garden of Eden, man. First book, last book. And now it's all, I look at it, it is. It's like Christ said, they go, why don't you tell them this, sir? And he says, they're profane and not meant to know it. You could sickly say it was like a really satanic blueprint for the takeover, but as a weapons manual, all posed as this loving thing. I know that's not the case, but that's how Satanists would operate, everything upside down. Because the Bible is either a manual for total absolute enslavement, or it is a manual to escape it. But see, it's free will. That's God's perfection. Christ is called the morning star. Lucifer is called the morning star 5 different times in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, Christ and the devil are not brothers in the sense that some would say. It's that God gives you free will and sends his son Christ to give you the entire future and the universe. But you have to first prove you're not going to fall to this evil influence. And some would say God is a sadist and that Lucifer is a creation of God. Lucifer was the first angel to be given free will and decided to try to become God. But in the final equation, only becomes the person that tests all of us. And I can tell you at a spiritual level, at an instinctual level, at a research level, you don't want to join the globalists. No matter who you are, whether you're Melania Trump or Bill Clinton or Donald Trump or Donald Rumsfeld, it doesn't matter. You get into the competition of other humans wanting to be the best in this world, but there is a spiritual force directing the energy, directing the knowledge, where that is not going to be the case. You're tricked into survival of the fittest, social Darwinism, that you're really just competing and you have a greater vision, and all these dumb people are what's bringing everything down. If you just had full control, it would be some utopia, but it never ends in that. And I don't know the whole way out of this thing. But the CFR and the globalists all said it was the communist Chinese century, and they've sold us out, and they've dumbed us down. They put half of us on welfare. There's nobody on welfare in China. And look at all these sad people domesticated. And this was the war. This was the 50-year globalist, leftist, robber baron war, recruiting China, taking over the churches, taking over the schools, taking over everything, putting the fluoride in the water, introducing the vaccines to break us. And I just believe in the human spirit rising against this and not being broken and liberating China and liberating Russia. And there were elements in the Pentagon that said, look at the resources of Russia, 4 or 5 times the U.S., 10 times China. They're becoming Christian. They were a globalist test. Let's reverse this. Let's not do this. Let's just have a system of nation states and real space exploration and a world built on people and a world built on technology and empowering humanity. And let's go back to that, and let's not go down this crap that the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the British royalty that are, again, Transylvanians cooked up. Let's not go with the House of the Dragon. Let's not do this. Vlad the Dragon, China the Dragon. Let's not go down this road. And the sheer horror I have for humanity, not for myself or even my family, but just knowing where this leads and knowing that all the welfare people and all the liberals and all the trendies are a psychological warfare program. I thank God that I wasn't as susceptible. But in my spiritual and genetic strength, I'm still weak compared to my ancestors. I'm just ruined. But I look at the globalists and the Hollywood people and how alone they are. They're even more ruined. And I'm just telling you, folks, they are not the way to go. So Apple announced that the whole cloud system where you put your photos, your Apple ID, everything's communist China, and they admit it's an authoritarian takeover. It's like giving the ICBM nuke codes to them. But hell, Clinton's already gave them the missile secret. So that's what I covered. You've got the Trump starting to go sideways. I don't think it's a big deal if you raise the age 21. That just means, next attack, take more rights. Melania says she's heartened by the students. I see them as trying to neutralize the opposition that Soros is funding, but if it is a dramatic deception, I don't think they even understand what they're part of a larger plan. I'll tell President Trump this, and I'm not the leftist calling for your death, or your wife's death, or your family's death, and yet I don't, at a spiritual level, I know you're a good person who means well. They don't think you're sophisticated enough because you just want to have prosperity and good deals with people, and they're not giving you good briefings. But what the president just got, and what the CIA got, and what the NSA just got, and those at the higher levels know this, that aren't just out partying trying to act cool all day. Real analysts and real people know. You just got the deep data. Because it's God's rule you're going to be given. They're trying to block it as hard as they can, but I'm ashamed that I'm the person bringing you this. I mean, that's what freaks me out, is that we've done the research, we've reverse engineered the whole deal, and everybody else that figured it out and was brought into it decided out of fear to bet against humanity because they just didn't want to go up against an organized evil like this. That's temporal. Don't you spiritually understand? You must go up against it or lose your soul. The only answer is resistance to this. There's nothing else. And I get caught up in all the news and the frustration and just think I'm going to cover whatever the news of the day is. They told me they're coming for me. And they have come. And I just look at how pathetic they are. It's just like, they hurt me in ways they don't know. So I forgive them, Father, if they do not know what they're doing. And there are those of you that are strong, though. Of every race, color, one creed, one humanity, you know the truth in your spirit. And you have been warned. For those of you that are serving evil, for those of you that think you're going to get power out of it, or just a temporary thing, I'm sorry you're put in the position in your life where they admit to the internet. The internet, they always say, will be used for total control. We thought, oh, look, we're battling back. But even though those of us that are stronger battled back in the first wave, it destroys everybody else and sucks their soul and dehumanizes them and kills human communication and makes them so insecure and so desperate and so alone that the next wave is what destroys us. And so I'll tell Trump this in closing. When you signed on to this assignment, you had to know that if you weren't successful relaunching the Republic, the free market renaissance, and the new Atlantis, that it would destroy the family name and the word Trump forever. If you're a big enough Satanist to project this false spirit and be ready to destroy you and your own family, for the greater plan or whatever the technologies they've developed and what they promised you. The secrets of the universe that you know the people need that have been stolen from us and put in sheltered, hidden areas by DARPA in the name of stopping disruptive technologies. I will tell you and I will prophesy that no member of the Trump family or anyone else that tries to bring this down will ever cross the River Jordan. You will be cut off from God, you will be damned to hell, and the life extension technology will blow up in your face. And I'm not saying Trump's doing that. I'm giving you the deep knowledge and the discussions going on behind the scenes because I see it in the information, I see it in history, I see it in how it repeats, and I see it. I see it. You see, Trump was for the people. And those that rallied behind Trump, where we were going was so horrible that they thought there could be something different. They had that moment of Darth Vader throwing the Emperor down the reactor shaft. But they can't do it without our help. They can't get the Emperor up. They can't throw it down the reactor shaft to use that allegory because we're so weak. And so now they ask, do we just sue for peace because we're tired? America's on its deathbed. The world is on its deathbed. And the poor Chinese slaves are being used. And Silicon Valley, hook, line, and sinker, has joined with evil. We are in an incredible time. There's a reason they want us banned. There's a reason CNN's calling for us to be banned on the internet, just like in China with Internet ID, because they don't want you to ever hear what I have to say. They can have algorithms, they have programs that are 10 years old that they admit, probably 20 years old. They can hit one button and start erasing my voice print from the world. And then even transcripts of what I say, they brag about it. But you already see what's going on, and you will carry the torch forward no matter what happens. Because in the end, don't fear he that can kill the body, but he that can kill the soul. Infowars.com/show, newswars.com. We got hacked, attacked today, brought down. And our weakness is the global strength. That's it for this transmission. I want to appreciate you all. And that's it. You have more.